Okay, number 5. Okay, part A is asking for critical numbers, and that would be when the derivative is 0 or undefined. Okay, the derivative is the rule where we are undoing an integral, so we just replace the t with an x. So we just get that my derivative is 1 plus cosine x. Okay, now finding when that equals 0, we get cosine x equals -1. And when does cosine equal -1? That would be at pi. Okay, now part B is the one that really is more likely on the AP exam. Okay, we want a minimum of f on a closed interval. Okay, if they have a minimum on a closed interval, now you have to do a t-chart. X, f of x, put these guys on your t-chart and any critical points, but this was the only critical point, okay? And that's already there, okay? Now, as an aside, why do we do a t-chart for a minimum on a closed interval? Well, if it's not a closed interval, let's use a different example. If it's not a closed interval, then there is no actual minimum because it goes on forever. So we have local minimums. However, if I take away those arrows and make it a closed interval, now the question becomes, is this endpoint, okay, and on this side too, now you have to compare the endpoints so that you can see, is the endpoint my minimum or is this local min my minimum? Whichever one's overall lower would be my minimum. Same thing with the maximum. It could be the endpoint or it could be this guy. And that's why we have to do a t-chart when they give you closed intervals. Okay, so now we're plugging into f of x, the original function, and that means you're going to plug this number in for the x's, not the t's, okay? So f of 0 means this is a 0, so we get the integral from 0 to 0. I can stop. As soon as those numbers are the same, that equals 0. The next one would be plugging in a pi up here. So now checking pi, you're going to plug in the pi. Up here is x, so this is, let me change colors. So if we're doing f of pi, that's the x right here that becomes pi. So it's the integral from 0 to pi of 1 plus cosine t. Okay, now if you can integrate that by hand, you can integrate that by hand, but if it was a calculator question, you would do math 9 and put this in your calculator. Okay, if it's a non-calculator, you have to integrate by hand and plug in the pi and the 0 and subtract. Okay, so I'm going to assume that it is a non-calculator. When I integrate with respect to t, the integral of a 1 would be 1t. The integral of cosine is positive sine. And now I have to plug in the pi and the 0. Plugging in the pi, then plugging in 0 and subtracting. Plugging in the pi, we get pi plus sine pi. Plugging in the 0, we get 0 plus sine of 0. Okay, so we have pi is over here. The sine there is 0. So sine of pi, that's going to go away. Sine of 0 is over here. And that's also 0, so that's going to go away. So your final answer to all of this is just pi. So what were we looking for, a minimum or a maximum? This was a minimum, so we want the smaller value. It would be here, okay? And this is usually the y coordinate that they want. Hope that helps. That was number 5, I think. Yep, that was number 5. Bye.